Hey everyone, so where we stopped yesterday we had our cash box built and we're going to be taking the next step today and working on the legs. And honestly I'm a little bit on the fence on how I'm going to do this. So I've got it loosely laid out and my basic concept is the box will be here. I'm going to run a straight leg down the back and then this front leg will have a pivot point here. And then I'll do some sort of a shelf or something that can give it some stability. So back leg will be straight. I'll obviously have to cut it a little bit shorter. Front leg will have an angle on it, and I'll cut an angle so that when the legs are extended, they're sitting flat on the ground. And then we'll do a couple crossbars to give it some support, kind of a ladder frame. And then, like I said, I'm thinking the shelves themselves are going to be what locks the whole thing in place so it doesn't wobble and doesn't fall over. That should let me have a little stand that can tuck right into the back corner of my porch, so that it doesn't take up a lot of room, it stays kind of out of the elements and stays as tucked away as possible, but still allows it to hold product and do the pickups the way we want. So I'm gonna get this measured up, probably build the ladder frame for the back first, and then figure out the angles on the front. Okay, as I was starting to lay out the frame, probably help if I take these off, ran into a situation that I've encountered before and just wanted to make sure to mention for those of you who are just getting into woodworking. Never assume that the wood that you get from a lumber yard is always going to be the same length. If you're doing anything like I'm about to do, where measurements and kind of pre-laying things out is important, you first want to make sure that your material is actually the same size. I have four 1x4x6s that are here, and if you look, if I line them up, they're actually quite different in length. So if I'm measuring off the top of these, obviously that second board from the left is going to be very, very off, and I'm going to end up with something that's not stable at all. So the first thing you want to do before you start any project that has measurements as an important thing is make sure your material is actually the right length, or the proper length, or a length that you can get away with, and then do all of your measurements off of a known piece of material. So I'm going to cut these down so that they're all exactly the same length, and then I can measure out my shelves, get my crossbars in place, and start actually putting this together. Back in a minute. Okay, the ladder frame is done, and as time goes on, my hair is getting crazier and crazier, and that's totally fine. What I did for my ladder frame is just two 1x4s, and then I went through and used just 1x2s that I've cut to 18 inches to match the width of my cash box. And then it's just simple pocket holes and pocket screws that I'm using. I did one in the middle and one down at the bottom just for stability. It gives me a nice frame to build off of. There will be an additional shelf somewhere down in here, but I'm gonna wait until I've got the rest of it put together, and then I'll put that support bar where it needs to be so the shelf's at the right height. I think for the front, what I'm gonna end up doing is cutting these pieces down to length and actually attaching them to the cash box, getting the angle right, and then just using a level and kind of a clamp and a temporary thing, and see if I can figure out exactly where the support would have to be on the angled piece to match this bar, so that when I put the shelf in, it ends up fairly level. We get a nice stable product. So I'm gonna work on that. Probably won't stop for much video in the middle of it. Maybe stop once I've got it kind of clamped together and have a rough feel for what I'm doing here. And I'll be back then. Okay, so I've gone back and forth a few times on how to do this next part, and my first couple ideas really weren't gonna work out at all. So what I'm gonna do is fall back to the constant. I know for a fact that I'm gonna be attaching this rear leg to the cash box, and that's going to be fixed in place. So I'm gonna attach that now, and then I can stand it up and deal with the adjusting leg after that. In order to do that, I've got them laid out. So I've got my cash box on the ground, I've got my leg attached, and I'm using a bar clamp to hold it all in place, aligned the way that I want. And then I'm gonna drill through it with a hole wide enough to handle this when it goes into the box. This is a pronged T-nut, so this is gonna sit in there and actually dig into the wood and allow me to run my bolts straight through without having to have something on the other side in the box itself. So I'm gonna drill those, get the back attached, and then we'll figure out the next part. Okay, status update. So it's starting to take shape, but I don't like it. The T-nuts that I was using don't actually work. The prongs are pulling straight out of the wood. You can actually see the separation here. So as soon as I bolted it together, it just pulled right apart. So that's not gonna be secure enough. I'm gonna have to switch just a simple nut and bolt, throw a washer on each side and just really clamp it down. Not a big deal, just means I have to run back to Menards. It does hold it well enough though that I was able to get a feel for how this leg is going to work. So what I did is I took my material and my miter saw, and I cut a 15-degree angle on the edge of that board, When that sits flat on the ground, what that allows is for the leg to sit at an angle to the floor. You can kind of see that here. I've got it just clamped, and this whole thing's actually clamped to that wall. But then, sorry if that makes you dizzy, I can use this to figure out exactly where that leg's going to line up at the front so that I can drill a hole in it and run a bolt through that side as well, and that'll allow the leg to pivot, but when it's extended fully, it'll be at the right angle and it's going to be lined up properly, and I know that I can attach it to the box, so all my lengths work and everything else. I'll clean up the end of it. I'll probably round it off and make it look a little bit better, but right now I'm just more worried about the structure. So I'm going to get that leg attached, deal with the other side as well, and then probably make a run to the tool store, get a few more bolts, and put all of that together. I'll worry about the shelves. Okay, evening update. I've gone through and obviously put a hoodie on because it's getting a little cold as the night wears on. But I've replaced all of my hardware with actual bolts and locking nuts on the back, so everything will stay nice and tight and connected. And then I've built the back legs, as you saw. I've got both of the front legs positioned and angled. One of them is actually clamped, so it's holding the whole thing up right now. And then I've got the first of the front supports ready to go. So this is in place. I've got my bar clamp on it, kind of holding everything. And the way that I did this was to go off of my back support and essentially mark a level line. So you can see that should be pretty level. Mark where that was going to be, put the front support in that place. That way when I lay my shelf, it's going to be nice and balanced. And I'll put a couple kind of latching pieces onto the shelf so that the legs will stay at this angle. I don't have to worry about the thing spreading out and falling over. And then once I figure out where the lower shelves are going to go, I'll do the same thing for them. But I think I'll get this screwed in, and that's going to end us for tonight. So my wife made a suggestion that I should be ending all of these videos with a dad joke because this is DIY Dad. So I have one for you, and that is, why are the best jokes elevator jokes? Get it? No? Because they work on so many levels. Take care, guys. Talk to you next time.